This is Raw and Real Entrepreneurship, the show that brings the no-nonsense truth of what is required to start, grow, and scale your business. I am your host, Susan Sly. Well, what is up, Raw and Real entrepreneurs, wherever you are in the world? I hope you are having an incredible day. And my guest today is, we started talking. I'm like, oh, crap, I should have been recording that. She is incredible. She's the co-founder of StoryTap Technologies, which is a video production company that has created and placed brand-inspired videos that amass millions of views. And I was creeping the website, and one of my favorite Canadian companies had a video on there, Canadian Tire. Shouts out to you. I still think in my childhood bedroom, I have a whack of Canadian Tire dollars somewhere stashed there. This co-founder has been in the industry for over 25 years. And if you're seeing her on YouTube, she looks flippin' amazing. And she brings a focus of empathy to her company culture. And after creating a financial book club that grew to 500 members across 6 countries, how do you manage that? My gosh. She created StoryTap Technologies to be the first agency of its kind to make videos for brands, companies, and social media that share perspectives and experiences from across the world. And we're going to hear about what StoryTap does, which is super cool. But before we do that, my guest today, who is a fellow Canadian. So you all know I'm biased about that anyway. We may even talk about Tim Hortons and the Tragically Hip, like my last Canadian show. But my guest today is the amazing, the one and only Bernadette Butler. So Bernadette, thanks for being on Raw and Real Entrepreneurship.
I am pumped to be here. Thanks for having me.
First question I have for you. There's this debate. Entrepreneurs are born, entrepreneurs are made. So when did you start your first business?
Like, I have been hustling my entire life. Like, literally, first time I made any money literally was grade 3. Like, I have been hustling my entire life. And I think in corporate world, I went safely into corporate as a marketer, advertising executive, but always had a side hustle. I was always onto something, creating, thinking about it, testing, learning. But I'd say my first kind of foray into business was a company I did in my 20s, which I sold, which was really fun. I did it with a friend and it didn't last very long, but we ended up selling it. So that was good. And then I got really passionate about women and finances. So that's when I started a financial book club, which was incredible learnings. And then here we are with StoryTap.
So I'm going to go back to you circa grade 3, because a lot of founders have childhood businesses they start. So we've had people who sold watermelon. We've had people who bought candy at the dollar store and resold it. We have all sorts of different stories. So what was that first side hustle? We have a lot of children who listen to the show to school with their parents. That's why we have a PG rating. We don't swear on the show, but lots of kids listen. So, I want to inspire that younger generation of entrepreneurs. So, what was your side hustle?
Well, I was a little artist, and I would make greeting cards for my friends and sell them for 25 cents. So at a time where kids can't go to school, they're in grade 3, they're not driving. And they're kind of out of that making Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthday cards. I would ask them what birthdays are coming up. And then I would go home and I would draw and make it as beautiful as I could. And sell it to them for 25 cents. That was the first. And then I got into, in high school, I started selling my artwork and doing commission art. Yeah, so that's kind of how I started.
Nice. And that, it just goes to show, like, there's always a way to make extra money. And even though a business I heard of, so one of my employees, her roommate has a 3D printer and she started to make, I think it's like some kind of custom beads. And so she's got this side hustle, 3D printing beads and then selling bracelets. And I said to my 13-year-old who has a 3D printer, a super techie kid, and I'm like, Emmy, that could be your business. Like, bring it on, right? Mine was making Christmas ornaments and selling them at our family restaurant in Brockville, Ontario.
Oh my God. I love it.
So my dad and I were just talking about that like the other day. He gave me a startup loan for that business, but yeah, I've been hustling, I think, since I was in the womb. So I totally get that. There's the other thing I'm I'm reading this book right now on billionaire founders
Mm.
and all the statistics around billionaire founders. And there's obviously you and I were talking, we had a whole conversation we should have recorded prior to like
Okay.
actually going into it. But we had a discussion about, women founders and having to hustle harder. As part of the stats, they're looking at degrees that founders have. And what did you go to school for?
Marketing. Yeah. So I honestly knew from early on hustling, but marketing was kind of my focus. So I did 3 years in marketing and then did a certification in advertising. And I was just very, very laser focused about where I wanted to play and what did I want to do. And it was all around TV commercials.
And that landscape has changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
Huge.
oh my gosh.
Huge. Yeah. Agencies it's a tough world for a lot of agencies right now. Very, very tough.
Well, let me ask you this. So there's a lot of, obviously, I'm in AI, but I come from marketing and then I went into MarTech. How do you think AI is going to change the marketing space?
That's a great question. I'm completely obsessed with it. So at StoryTap, with our platform, and I think all tech should be looking at this, is, they have open APIs. You can easily dive into that tech and look to how it would easily benefit your platform, your concept, your business, which we've done and did it in a week. Like, it wasn't tough and it's incredible. But I do think the disruption, we're just starting to see it. It's replacing obviously blog content. I mean, I think some writers are upset and, questioning the validity of what's being spat up. But the reality is, as a founder, as an owner of a company, you're like, wow, like this is incredible stuff. Look how fast it can be produced. I think other things, and it really depends on their business model, but it really is impacting so many different layers in a business that I think it's hard at this stage. I was just talking with a girlfriend last night. It's like we're watching like the world change. It was like, we're watching, we're all Blockbuster and we're starting to see Netflix show up, from AI. And it's really, really exciting. I think there's a lot of businesses that are going to be hurt and may not survive it. Mm-hmm. But I think we're moving to an exciting place.
Agreed. And it's about adaptability, right? So
totally.
One of the things, and you mentioned blog content, and I know like that it's interesting to take a look at if you like, I have GPT and then I'm using the V4 version. Yeah. So write a blog on, whatever the metaverse and, whatever you want to write a blog on, and it's going to produce it. And you are still going to, in the current state it's at, have to validate those resources. Sure. Yeah. But, in terms of taking off the heavy lifting. So I'll give you another example. We'll talk about this in a minute. So you know exactly what this is like. So, I'm traveling a ton right now. And so the show is something I used to be in media when I was in Canada. And it's just, I love to get to sit down with fellow founders and just like hit the record button instead of eating lunch. Like, let's just talk. Right. Yeah. And, so I missed a show because I had to do a last minute trip. So I was like, my team was like, can you just do an episode where you talk freely about AI and entrepreneurship? And I'm like, yeah, but I was really tired. So I went into GPT-4 and I said, give me podcast, give me ways in which generative AI can benefit entrepreneurs. So it listed out, it gives the whole podcast content. And the episode of that show is called GPT Help Me Create This Episode, right? Because it was that.
I sat down with a friend the other night who had an idea, and I'm like, let's just ask ChatGPT for the business plan. Let's get a competitive analysis. Like, boom, boom. I didn't even know about these competitors. And it's like, everything's becoming flat. Like everything's accessible for anybody with that technology. And I think, I think it's really exciting. I mean, you can just run so much faster. Yes, you have to validate it for sure, but it gives you some structure and produces the nuts and bolts of it, so to speak. Yes, validate it. Yes, call those competitors. Yes, make sure that pricing's up to date. But I mean, it took 16 seconds for both of those. I mean, it was incredible.
I have a funny story, and I know this show goes all around the world, so I'll disclose, like, we're having a secret conversation. But so we were, we're in fundraising mode, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't tell GPT like what the company was or whatever, but I was like, why should an investor invest in computer vision at the edge for retail? And so GPT does this whole long thing about these are the reasons why, and this is where it's going. And it was perfect because I
Mhm.
used some of those talking points when I had the conversation.
Yeah.
And for some of those things, I think it's absolutely huge. Let me ask you, thinking about AI and thinking about StoryTap,
Mhm.
how do you think AI is going to shift your business in the next
Mhm.
5 years?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. What we're all about is, and I'll like to land this plane first, is really consumer behavior has changed. We are not reading online, we are watching. And if you want to
Mm-hmm.
buy it, fix it, make it, build it, we're watching. And so our technology, our platform really helps brands get into the video first world. And, if we're not reading anymore, we're all going to YouTube and TikTok. We're binge watching. We're binge watching on our couches. We're binge watching on our phones. We love it. If you want to buy something, you're going to watch 3 to 5 videos to make a
Yeah.
decision. And so if consumer behavior is changing at that rate, then businesses need to change at that rate. So we get really pumped when we meet with these massive brands who are like, yeah, let's do it. Let's have a binge worthy experience. Even if it's your FAQ page, let's get it going. Let's, real people telling real stories across the board at scale and high volumes is going to do wonders. And so for AI, immediately for us, one of our solutions is all about, honestly, your FAQ page and turning that into a powerhouse for SEO, but also reducing call center volume. It's using real people, real staff, call it, for a lot of our bigger brands, their call center, their technicians, doing video answers, which becomes not only incredibly helpful, which we're all data driven, so the data is telling us that. But one area where some brands got stuck was, well, what are the video questions they need right now? And it's like, so that's where we implemented our AI is like in a nanosecond, a brand can be in the back end of StoryTap and pull all of the questions people are asking about right now about your brand. Those videos get produced immediately, and you're winning on video SEO, like being discovered, because Google's doubled down on video too. So they care a lot about video. So I think that is the first step for us. But it's so much more I can see in the future in terms of consumer behavior. And when I say that, I also, there's this, you're a marketer, so the shift of most brands often think about their brand as, I have 5 ICPs, I have 5, customer profiles I market to, I target. But this new world, it is infinite. Every person that comes to your site is looking for relevant, personalized information, video to make a confident decision. So
Mm-hmm.
with that in mind, what I'm going to watch isn't what you're going to watch. We're not even in the same location. I'm certainly not going to watch a 20-year-old guy talk about the lawnmower I'm going to buy. I'm going to want to see what a 40-year-old woman in Vancouver, can she pull the thing? Does it start? Like all the things that go into making a purchase decision that are very specific to me. So I think AI is going to play a really interesting role for our company, potentially in terms of consumer behavior, how fast that moves and how quickly videos are served up to really make sure that the consumers are, the right videos are being served up at the right time, and that level of sophistication around our algorithms. Right now, I'd say we're here and we're excited to be getting to this point.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Bernadette, and that to what you're speaking to, this personalized experience. Because when we go online, it's as amazing and generous as we are as women, but when we go online, it's still all about me. Like when I'm online, I want to see like something for a 50-year-old woman who is working 12 to 16 hours a day,
Mhm.
who has children and still has children at home, and like all the things in my
Yeah.
life. Show me something for me. And because this is raw and real entrepreneurship. And,
Yeah.
we've even talked about one of my founders, she was still breastfeeding. We talked about postpartum depression. We,
Oh,
all sorts of things like, I want to show me stuff about menopause, like show me
Ah,
something, have someone talk to me.
yeah,
And that's why I think some of the big brands are getting it so wrong. And
totally.
I'll use one example. So I love that Lululemon is all about body inclusion.
Mhm.
However, as someone who used to be a women's size 16X and now is like a size 4'6", I actually want to see women like my body type. And I think where Aloe is getting it right is like you can choose your own adventure, right?
That's it.
People want to see something like them. And that's,
Mhm.
to that point. So going back in time,
Yeah.
a lot of people have ideas about starting businesses, but
Mhm.
very few actually execute on them.
Mhm.
So you have this massive financial book club.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you say, well, I want to start this company, StoryTap. So how
Mhm.
did you go from ideation to execution? And what was the initial sort of beginning idea? Because obviously
Yeah.
here you are over 8 years later and the company's got massive logos,
Yeah.
but how did you start it?
Oh, this is a good gnarly question. It's interesting with the book club in that I started it, and for all you listeners out there, this is raw. My dad died, and
Mm-hmm.
I was making incredible money in marketing, and I had nothing to show for it. And I
Mm-hmm.
went, what's up with that? I manage 6 million a quarter. What's wrong with me personally? And so I had this vision of like, oh, I just don't like to open my visa bills. I don't like to manage my money. Oh, okay, I can fix that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started on this journey of it's kind of a guilt trippy book club for women specifically. So we read 35 books. I mean, it's not operating now, but we read so many. And to me, it was so clear of where I needed to go personally, both for fulfillment, but for the goals financial goals I wanted to achieve. And then in and around when I lost my dad, I got really excited about personal video stories. And so the inception of StoryTap was life stories. So capturing life stories from real people. And I still think we're a bit early with that. But, the beauty was I actually got my dad's life story on video. And so when my kids watch his life story, they think we're Skyping. Well, we're on FaceTime, but he's been dead 10 years. So like, what a magical gift. And I thought, let's do that. But all of that pain and suffering and learning, like crazy amounts of learning, took me to this place of, I'm a marketer. This is who I am. And so when we started with life stories, it is the reason our tech has won so many patents. It is the reason because I literally would sit in Starbucks and I would approach, elderly folks walking in, seniors, and going, "Can I buy you a coffee? Can you point on my wireframes and show me?" Like I wanted them to walk through what they would do and how they would record video. So it was so easy. That
Mm-hmm.
demographic doesn't want to learn tech. They don't even want to know it's tech. So that is part of the reason it's so fabulous. But so my co-founder stepped back when we were a year into life stories and went, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm sorry." To me, the biggest pain I could possibly solve is I have been in marketing my entire life producing a fake message for a fake brand with fake people. I take 27 weeks, 10 weeks, 27 weeks to produce a $300,000 ad that runs once, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fake. It's all manufactured. And so I thought, like, imagine a world if we could flip this. We could take this technology and we could help middle class, anybody who's buying online, make a confident buying decision by seeing themselves, by seeing people like them who are
Mm-hmm.
using it, opening it, like playing with it. And any story they're in, we work with businesses or brands that are helping to educate about kidney donation. So we're capturing stories about what it's like to donate a kidney, receive a kidney. I mean, that is incredible. Like their KPIs are how many people are interested in donating a kidney. Like,
Right.
like it's incredible what a video story or binging relevant video stories can do for a person who's interested to make to research and or to buy something.
Mm. So what year did you start? Like, what year was the book club going?
Book club is old. Book club, probably 2008, 2009.
So I want to paint a picture, friends, because time is relevant. Right now, I have a lot of founders I'm interviewing who started their businesses during the pandemic, like my friend Dr. Eric Korem, my friend Kartik. And so there's a very interesting thing that happened in the last recession. So there were companies that were founded during the recession and coming out of the recession that ended up being unicorns and very successful. And so Bernadette, I kind of have this interesting hypothesis that for people who found companies during the toughest of times, they're raising money in the toughest of times. When the whole world is focused on joblessness, pandemics. We had a pandemic in 2009. We had SARS, right?
Actually, you're right.
Yeah. And I remember in Kingston, where I was living at the time, things were closing down and, people were rightly so very nervous.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so my hypothesis is that, and this at some point, when I have the bandwidth to write the book on this and do a study on this, is to look at the founders who start businesses because of either a very significant traumatic life event or during a traumatic time, their resilience skill. Because we look at Uber, Airbnb, all these companies that started during the pandemic and the next wave, or during the recession, the next wave that started then. So you go for the book club, you're telling life stories, there's a healing catharsis for you. And then you say, okay, we're going to transition this into something else. So how did you get the capital to start StoryTap?
So yeah, good question. And when you talked about breastfeeding, I actually breastfed at a VC meeting, not intentionally. I literally forgot to feed my kid. And then this screaming baby showed up. Not my best moment, but I rocked it. So it was fine.
Raw and real entrepreneurship. And I just want to say that this is the first time this is the first one at a VC meeting that we've had breastfeeding at the VC meeting. Mm-hmm.
For moms that I was in my skinny jeans for the first time. It was you know what though? You put on the little thing to cover yourself and you just keep on going. Capital. Yes. So for me, my story started with, a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old, and I'm ready. Like, look, I'm doing this thing. And my husband's like, you like the babies? I'm like, we're just going to figure this out. And so I'm so ready, and I'm starting to make coffee appointments, as you do with potential, at the time, staff, employees. I had no concept of a co-founder at that stage. It was just me and an Excel sheet and some wireframes. I'm like, I'm doing this. And I ended up meeting a gentleman. At the time, I thought, I need a CFO. Clearly had no concept of what it was like to do startup, but that was where my headspace was at the time. Anyways, he was my first check. He said, I love this so much. I want to be your first angel. Here's a couple of $100,000. And it actually ended up being $100,000 in the end. He kind of backed out a little bit, and all of a sudden when you get that first check, you're like, oh shit, this is a business. I gotta, terms have to be established. I've got to find a lawyer. All these things had to happen immediately. And I'm learning what a safe is and what are the complexities of this. And, I've got a cap table now. And so I was kind of away to the races. And then I started to interview developers, and I wasn't looking for a co-founder, but I ended up meeting one who I hired, a genius, Sean Brax, who's my co-founder. We met, and I hired him to do CX. So just customer experience of this product that we were well underway of building. And then he kind of said, I'm a full stack developer. I'm like, oh, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm like, oh. So then I had him talk to my developer. My developer was like, no, he's really good. He's like really good. I was like, oh. I'm like, do you want to be my co-founder? He's like, yes. I'm like, done. And we've honestly worked beautifully together. It's incredible. We're 8 years later, and we've never even had an argument. Kind of awesome. But yeah, that's how I started. And we bootstrapped. So we bootstrapped for a long time. I would say I half-heartedly tried to raise capital, but really bought into this, it's really hard for women, and I had little kids, and I'm like, let's just sales. Sales solves all. If you can sell, and I didn't know how to sell. I'm a marketer. I had no idea how to sell. I had to figure that out too. But then you do. And, and then for us, we didn't even contemplate taking venture until the pandemic, when we started to see some hyper growth, and we were like, okay, now it's time.
So that is a very interesting time in the growth of a company
Mm,
because it's this critical mass where just to explain to the people who are not quite at that point with their business yet. So there's like a lot of interest and a lot of customer activity. The sales pipeline is really robust.
mhm,
And you're looking at it going, okay, I have enough wisdom now to know for me to fulfill on all of this, I need capital, I need more talent, I need, whatever it is that you need
mhm.
to be able to do it. And so that round for you, because you had bootstrapped, was kind of like a not quite an A round, but kind of a, what did you call it?
Yeah,
you
I
know,
called it, it was weird. Like I called it a seed. And I will tell you the headspace we were at. We had that stage had a lifestyle business. We had a small team, we're paying everybody, we're growing. But then when I really got quiet with my ambition, and I would say partially Sean, but I'd say mostly mine, I was like, I want to land on the moon. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not doing this for lifestyle. I'm doing this to do it. Let's do it. And so that's when we decided capital. But then if you're bootstrapped, which, you know, it's a double-edged sword because in the early days, you're hungry. Like you need to put food. I need to cover daycare. Like I have got to figure out how to sell because my
Yeah.
daycare cost me $2,000 a month and I
Yep.
needed to sell. So for us, when we thought about venture, it was critical that it was about fit. And so for me, it was just honestly, I'd get on calls. I'm like, nope, like not interested. If you're asking me questions about how I balance my motherhood and the tech, I'm like, whatever, next. Or I get on calls and they're only talking to my co-founder, and he's like, she's the CEO. That's her. I'm like, next. And so we really, I feel very lucky about. We had two co-leads with our venture round, and they're both two people that I would go for dinner with in a heartbeat. I would have over on Christmas Eve, and like they're just incredible humans that really get what we're up to.
So I'm going to rapid fire some questions. It'll be fun. So for the seed round, how did you determine your valuation?
That's a good question. And I kind of kicked myself a little bit because we went too low. We were very Canadian, and I think we got a little too low. And because you're low when your lead investor check actually values you higher. So the term sheet came in higher than what we had valued ourselves at. So I mean that was a good signal. Um, but yeah, valuation is always tricky. But I think it's there's some math equations in there when you are actually producing revenue. I think we're seeing a big bit of the pinch now with tech companies that haven't made any money and yet their valuation was through the roof, and
Mm-hmm.
they're all in down rounds. They can't
Yep.
make up that delta, and they're in a bit of a pickle. We were in the different situation. I guess hindsight, we're fortunate.
So you're kind of like what I'm hearing, Bernadette, is you're kind of like um, creating your valuation based on like the typical stuff like EBITDA and stuff like that. And then looking at the market valuation for people who don't know, who are outside of this space. Sometimes they just pull it out of thin air. And it's kind of
Totally.
like what the free market will bear at the time. So if you're going to say friends and family, you'd be like, yeah, my company is worth $50 million and you don't have a dime of revenue. But if people invest in that, then that's what they've decided the value of the company is. Right.
Mhm.
So, and, coming from marketing, as you know, a story has a tremendous amount of value. And then we talk about valuation, like real value, perceived value. And when I get asked what the valuation of our company is in these conversations, I turn it around and I'll give an example of a peer company and what they did
Mm.
their last raise at with X number of customers and revenue. And whoever gives the first number tends to lose, right? So,
Mhm.
so that's why I never give it. But I was just curious about that. So, how many investors did you pitch to?
Probably, I don't know, I want to say 20. It wasn't a lot, like 15, 20.
15 to 20.
Yeah, it wasn't a
And
lot.
and did did any of them, I guess, since it's raw and real entrepreneurship, did
Mhm.
any of them like you kind of thought, yeah, I think they're going to, and then they at the end said no, or?
Well, I'd say, since the seed round, we've done, seed plus round, definitely more in that camp that I thought, oh yeah, this is it. And then it's not it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is it. And they're like, no, it's not it. I'm like, I take it really personally. I have a really hard time with it. I don't know how you handle it when people say no. I don't like it. Um, and the other experience I had is we actually went through TechStars. So TechStars is, if you don't know, it's
Yep.
you would know, but if your listeners don't, it's an accelerator, and then you have demo day, and demo day is a pretty big thing. So that was probably my first experience. We weren't raising at the time of demo day, but it was good to go through that because we were bootstrapped. It was good to go through and to have investors, even though I wasn't even raising, kind of actually, be interested, be like, oh, we're going to pass. I'm like, I'm not actually even raising. So you pass all you want. But I think, again, it comes down to fit. If you can, fit and strategics, like I think at the A round, and you've got to just go for strategics, and it's got to be, for us Canadians, it's American strategics of how you're gonna, because then you've got to get to whatever your goals are, the B or your exit, whatever. But yeah, we're not there yet, and I'll be focusing on the A in a bit.
Yeah. And I love that you shared that, because I love that you talked about taking it personally. Right.
Mhm.
And before we got into the show, we were talking about women-led pitches and male-led pitches. And the statistic is low. It's still single digits for women-led pitches, especially in Silicon Valley. And it's the founder of Canva. She was rejected by 200 VCs, right? And my friend Kartik, who was on the show, he was rejected by, it's not just a woman thing. He was rejected in his last company by 75. And then they finally got that first term sheet. And I said, like, how did you keep it together? Like, while you're waiting? Let me ask you that. Like, how did you manage your emotional state and physical state while you were waiting for the first term sheet to come in? And did they tell you they were sending a term sheet, or did you just open your email and it was like, oh, there it is?
No, because we were bootstrapped, we were in a really good, comfortable cash position. So I felt like I had a lot more hand. So use Jerry Seinfeld or George, whoever said it. But like, I felt like I had more control over the situation, and it really was a negotiation. And so they said they were going to send a term sheet, and I had never done a venture round before. I really didn't know the work. Actually, do you want to? I'll show you this because this is raw and you'll see video. Actually, just had this out the other day. I'm a printed nerd, but this was my seed round. This is the paperwork required for anybody who's never done venture, but that's it. So it's shocking to me the amount of work that goes into a venture round of funding. Much different than my first, safe term sheet. That was much different. That was a piece of paper, but it's a lot of work on every detail, right? Like, as you know, everything is negotiable, and there's so many interest, what is the word, intricacies throughout it, that you have to be on your game, and it's going to impact how you're modeling things out. So yeah, and I think it's really emotional for me because it's, as you said, I'm working around the clock. I've got children. Like, I care so much about the success of this business and all of the people that are working for us. Of course I'm going to take it personal, and almost I get a little mad. Like, you're saying no?
Yeah.
Crazy?
It's like, so the saying is, someone's telling you your baby's ugly, right? And for the listeners, so Bernadette held up a binder, and it's almost like 3 inches thick.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Like, and so like you're populating a data room, and then they're coming back and going, well, this isn't in the data room. You're like, well, it is in the data room,
Yes.
and I've actually found that women on the VC side are tougher on women than the men have been.
I didn't have, so the first person who wrote us a term sheet only invests in females. And her version is probably different than mine, but I felt like we talked about our dogs, and then a little bit about the business. And then she was like, yeah, this feels right. I'm like, does it? Is this so easy? Like, I don't know, maybe fate has a role to play in it too, but one of my VCs is female and she's lovely. She's tough. I mean, she's an investor. She cares about very specific things, like she's tough, but she's incredible as a human.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
as you said, it really comes down to right fit, because
Mhm.
depending on the size of your round, depending on the percentage that that VC is taking, they're either going to take a board position or they're going to be a
Mhm.
board observer, or there's
Uh-huh.
so many nuances of things. And they may
Very.
decide to shift around your executive team. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And and also the transparency, right? Like, since raw and real, and you're like, suddenly you're opening, there's a term, like it, but it's the term that's used, opening the kimono. So you're opening the kimono essentially and showing like everything, every dollar you've spent, every decision you've made. And they have checklists, and you either, meet the checklist or you
Or
don't.
you don't. Mhm.
Yeah. And I know, like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to ask you, but I'm going to, I hope everyone listening, please go leave us a 5-star review and share this episode. I read all of the reviews. So if you're on iTunes, I read your reviews. I shouldn't say like on Spotify and iHeartRadio and everywhere that people listen to the show. I'll read all those reviews. My team sends them to me. But if you want to, connect, go to susansly.com and share what you loved about the show. And if you are a hater, just don't bother, because you can go on TikTok and go ruin someone else's life. It's called Raw and Real Entrepreneurship. And my first job out of university in Canada was men's maximum security prison guard at Kingston
No,
Penitentiary. Oh yes.
that's
So
amazing.
yeah, I don't take nonsense. So with my Canadian founders, we have a little bit of Canadian fun.
Tell me,
And
tell me.
so to bring Canadiana to the world. So here we go. This is rapid fire
Hit me.
Canadian questions. Number 1, favorite Canadian musical artist or band?
Oh, Brian Adams, Sarah McLachlan. I mean, I love those. I'm older.
Oh,
Probably.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Avril Lavigne's one, debut song probably, but yeah.
Yeah, Sarah, I was at some parties with Sarah. I used to work with her
Ooh,
biological mom, Judy, in Halifax. Yes. Mm-hmm.
how incredible is
Yeah.
that?
And Sarah
Yeah.
would come into the store. We worked at this little store called Imports Unlimited in Halifax. And she'd come in and she'd start singing a cappella. And I used to, so whatever. I used to go underage to the bars in Halifax. And Sarah, one night I was in this bar called the Pub Flamingo, and Sarah was singing a cappella on a Monday night.
Oh my God.
Oh, amazing voice. Okay, Sarah. So next question.
Mm-hmm.
National Post or Globe and Mail?
Globe Mail.
Okay. Next question. I have no sentiment either way. Canadian food, because we have a few that are like very, specific Canadian foods. What would yours be?
Ketchup chips.
Right.
Right.
Delicious. Oh my gosh. Yes. Even in Scottsdale, there's a Canadian section at one of the grocery stores and they sell ketchup chips.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hard to
Mhm.
resist those. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had the last time I was in Montreal, I had poutine in old Montreal. And I have to say, like, no one does poutine like,
Oh yeah.
Quebec.
Les
Yeah.
Québécois. Yeah.
Oui.
They've mastered it.
Did you know there are Tim Hortons in Texas now?
I did know that. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And I love my Timmy's. My co-founder does not. He makes every time we travel together, I have to walk miles to get his very specific coffee. And I'm clearly bitter about it, but just get me a Tim's and I'm happy.
Do you have a Timbit flavor that you like?
Oh, double chocolate.
Delicious. Absolutely. Well, Bernadette, thank you. That is Canadian trivia. Canadian actor or actress.
Oh, now you're in my world. Okay. Jim Carrey. I like Ryan Reynolds.
Right. The
Ryan
Ryans.
Gosling, the
Yes.
Ryans. Gosh, like probably those are the top three. Well, Mike Myers as well. Who else? Oh,
Rachel McAdams. Oh my gosh, we just
oh,
watched Eurovision again. My youngest daughter
love
loves
Eurovision.
Eurovision, right?
Mhm,
Oh my gosh.
mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she's incredible. I'm still sad that she broke up with Ryan Gosling. Like
I
seriously,
know.
like they were made for
Really.
each other in The Notebook. How did this even happen? Two
I know.
Canadians? Come on.
No offense, Ava Mendes, but
No
we're
offense, but
still
like,
rooting, still rooting for.
I love that movie.
I know. Okay, listeners, you're like, okay, enough with the. If you want to learn about raw and real entrepreneurship and Canada, this is the only show that is going to cover both those bases. So, anyway, Bernadette, thank you so much for being here. Everyone, check out StoryTap. If you, share it with the brands you love. I love what you're doing in the world. You're another like incredible badass female founder, and plus, again, amazing mom, Canadian. And definitely next time I see you, I have to go to Vancouver for business. So cocktails or whatever,
cocktails.
But not both at the same time. Timbits and cocktails do not go together, in my opinion. No.
Probably not, but I'm open to it. Like, if we're really being honest, like I'm open, dirty martini and double chocolate. Like, it's something I would consider. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. With that combination. Yep. Yep. Okay. All right.
Okay.
You're all, we maybe we'll do a show live while drinking martinis and eating Timbits, and we'll get Tim Hortons to sponsor it.
I love it. Count me in.
All right. And we could get, if we had gin
Ryan
martinis.
Reynolds, he could do the gin martinis of aviation gin.
Yes. Okay. That's it. It's done. All right. Anyway, Bernadette, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening around the world, just remember that you always do control your destiny, and starting a business is one of the ways that you can truly reclaim your power. So with that, God bless, go rock your day, and I will see you in the next episode of Raw and Real Entrepreneurship. Are you currently an employee looking to start your own business? Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while and you're just not sure where to start. Well, my course, Employee to Entrepreneur, combines my decades of experience as an entrepreneur with proven methods, techniques, and skills to help you take that leap and start your own business. This course is self-paced, learn on demand, and comes with an incredible workbook. And that will allow you to go through this content piece by piece by piece, absorb it, take action, and then go on to the next module. So check out my course on susansly.com, Employee to Entrepreneur.